All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. This is my last podcast of 2023 officially. Want to talk about a team that, hopefully for their sake, they have an opportunity now to be looking upwards for 2024, and that's going to be the Detroit Pistons. Why? Because the Pistons are finally off of the schneid as they got a win last night over the Toronto Raptors, and in doing so, it marked their first victory in more than 2 months. You got to go back to October 28th to find the last time that Detroit was able to win a basketball game before losing their next 27. Now, clearly, this was a single season NBA record, and it's the second most consecutive losses in NBA history. But credit to the Pistons. And I know some people are going to like, well, how could you give them credit, with all these losses? I say this because, they've showed some character of late, fighting, scrapping and clawing and not laying down in some of their recent losses. You go back to the two losses against the Brooklyn Nets. The Pistons were basically in those games. They had a big lead this past Thursday on the road against the Boston Celtics but before the Celtics came back and they lost in overtime. And then finally they got it right last night against the Toronto Raptors, albeit, the Raptors, a little bit depleted right now because of the trade and such, but nonetheless, you don't apologize for winning, and neither should the Detroit Pistons. They're 3-29. Okay, there's no way to dance around the fact that theoretically their season's over. There's no way in the world that the Pistons are going to sit up here and make up that much ground to try to get into the play-in tournament, if anything else. But what they can do right now, especially that you got this win just before the calendar year is over, and now you can look at 2024 and just start on the right foot and then just basically try to approach this like your record is 0-0 and it's the start of a new season. And I think this is something that Monty Williams, the Pistons head coach, could do for his very young team. Now, I said before, even though that the Pistons were losing, they still had talent on this team. It's not 3-29 talent. I'm not saying that they're going to be champions right away. No, but there's still talent on this team for them not to be as bad as they have been. And just like winning and can be infectious, so can losing. Now that the Pistons have finally had an opportunity to taste victory for the first time in more than 2 months, maybe just maybe they can start to string some wins together. You've got Cade Cunningham, phenomenal player. Phenomenal young player. I think the future is bright for him in the Motor City, but he's not going to be able to do things by himself. He got some other talent on his team as well, but now it's going to be an opportunity for them to try to, start putting some wins together, being that, what, they don't have to say, oh, shucks, here we go again, one of those type moments. They've got this four-game winning road trip coming up, rather, excuse me, there, that begins tomorrow night in Houston against the Rockets. So maybe they could try to piece together a couple of wins on this road trip, four-game road trip. Maybe they could try to say, hey, let's try to go 2-2. And before you know it, you got 5 wins. What you're trying to do now, if you're the Pistons, clearly is trying to win some games. Also, you're trying to avoid, joining the Philadelphia 76ers, the 72-73 76ers, as the only team in NBA history for an 82 game schedule to not win at least 10 games. Of course, those Sixers went 9-73. So if you're the Pistons, obviously nobody was trying to go out there and lose 27 games in a row like they did. It happened. Now you got to try to find a way to put it behind you and go forward. Again, this Pistons team showed character recently, fighting, scrapping, and clawing and coming up short. Now they've gotten over the hump, the monkey's off their back, so to speak, and let's see if bigger and brighter days are on the horizon for this team. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine and wonderful folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to like this page and also subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. And as we're set the count down, the end of 2023, and welcome in the year of 2024. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it one more time here for the final podcast for me for this calendar year. I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for your support for this entire year. I also want to take this time to wish each and every one of you a happy and healthy new year and all the best to you and your loved ones for the coming year. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Happy New Year, everyone. Be well and take care.